What's up, witches? This is the Hermit, and this week we are talking about the Hangman card. Alright, so this is my Hangman card from the Rider-Waite deck, which I had it on a stand for a week to think about it. I also have my tarot coloring book by Theresa read, and I colored the Hangman card. So, as you know, I'm doing this project every week where we color different cards and we basically follow the cards like they are in the order of the Rider-Waite deck. First of all, let's start to talk about the card from the tarot coloring book. I like the keyword of surrender. Surrender to what's happening in your life, surrender to the situation. She also talks about fate and thinking what would improve in your life if you could just hang loose and let go. So some stuff, sometimes we try to hang on to our past, to our memories, to our stuff, but what could improve if we just hang loose and let go to whatever no longer serves us. So the halo around his head, if we go in this book and also in the tarot coloring book, it's a symbol of enlightenment. The halo is usually used for saints or people who became enlightened. The tree is a link to the Norse god Odin, who used to hang on a tree, and it's mentioned both here and in the tarot coloring book. And if we go more into this book, they also talk about the cross-legged position, which is a link to the number 4. But in the 78 Degrees of Wisdom, Rachel Pollack also talks about the way his legs make the number 4. And it's not only him. If you go to Tarot de Marseille, if you look at the Emperor card, the Emperor's legs are also like a number 4, which is similar to the way the legs are in this card. So, what else to add? Something I highlighted from this book is, so his standpoint is heavenly, transcendental perspective. So he's changing his perspective, he's gaining a change in perspective. It's also a card about examining our own beliefs and what no longer serves us as a belief. And what I also liked about some of the meanings that I highlighted, a change of consciousness brings you a completely new perspective on the world. So that was in this book. If we go to the 78 Degrees of Wisdom by Rachel Pollack, I have the old edition. The new edition is like yellow-orange. So if we go to the Hangman, which was quite short to read, usually it's kind of longer to read about the cards. And if you look at the card itself, it's quite simple, right? There's not a lot of different colors, or basically it was quite easy to color. And I did it quite rapidly. So something I highlighted and which reminded me of the time when I was doing yoga teacher training, and we talked about the headstand and how we gain enlightenment doing the headstand, because like our energy flows back to our head or whatever. So if you think about it, and if you're into yoga, you probably know that stuff. But here in the 78 Degrees of Wisdom, Rachel Pollack talks about it, and she says, so I'm gonna quote, "In discussing strength, we said that occultists seek to release the energy of the desires and transform it into spiritual energy. Many occultists, following the ideas of traditional yoga, have believed that one very direct way to do this is literally to stand on your head so that gravity will pull down the energy from the genitals to the brain. Of course, only naive and optimistic occultists would have experienced such a thing to literally happen." So it's also kind of linked to yoga and to this enlightenment when you do a headstand. So let's continue to some of the meanings. It's also a card that's almost halfway to in the middle of the major arcana cards, so somewhere in the middle. And she points out that the number 12, 1 and 2, if you reverse it, is 21, 2 and 1, which is also a link to the high priestess and the magician. For many modern people, it involves releasing the emotions they have locked up for years. So basically releasing your old stuff, addressing what you have inside, and gaining enlightenment. The arms and head together form a downward pointing water triangle, which can be linked to water. And then if you see in another version of the tarot, the Golden Dawn Tarot, there's actually water at the back of the card. So let's go to some of the meanings of the card. Upright, we were talking about change in perspective, all that stuff. So I'm quoting, the hangman indicates being who you are, even if others think you have everything backwards. So accepting who you are and being who you are. The feeling of being deeply connected to life, having an inner awareness. And if we go to the reversed meaning, we're talking about inability to get free of social pressure, so following social pressure or social advice instead of trusting your own self. Then it could be a person who tries to deny some basic part of himself, or simply the person who cannot accept reality and who in some way or another is constantly battling life. So somebody who's not accepting, but somebody who's struggling. All right, so that was the Hangman. And the books that I'm using, the list of the books will be underneath the video. 78 Degrees of Wisdom, The Ultimate Guide to the Rider-Waite Tarot, and the Tarot Coloring Book by Theresa Reed. And if you look for next week, we're going to talk about the Death card. We're going to color the Death card, and we're going to read about the Death card in these two books. And also we're going to put the Death card on our stand or somewhere in your house where you can see it and think about it. Even though it scares you, it's not that scary. You'll see when you read about it. Please join me in this project and use the hashtag connecting with the tarot. And I guarantee that you will learn and connect with the cards even more than you think. So, alright, see you all next week.